Kaviraj. Help me pronounce your last name. I haven't learned yet. Sorry.
Kaviraj is right.
Kaviraj. Okay, I did it. I was close enough.
Yeah.
Is a Minneapolis-based pianist, composer, and arranger from India. His experience with various musical styles allow him to merge influences into original music, rooted in jazz, yet encompassing different worlds in boundary-breaking magnetic persona. Kavi has appeared with international acts like Justin Robinson, Roosevelt Collier, and David Sanchez. And he was part of our ambassador trip to Panama and doing beautiful music and play incredibly nice. Also, we want to thank Jerry Leak for being part of his panel, this panel as his panelist and advisor. And I understand Alan was, or Bruno was your advisor, correct?
Yeah, Bruno.
Bruno, thank you, Bruno, also for being here as part of the advisor that worked with you all year. Thank you, Kevin. You can start when you're ready.
All right. Good morning. It is my distinct pleasure and honor to be able to present the culminating research of my project this year, and it is entitled Temple Beyond Sanctuary. This is a personal journey, a study of Carnatic music as combined with jazz, and it abridges my past, present, and future. In this project, I've aimed to find unique but respectful rule-breaking hybrids between Carnatic music and jazz. I've been inspired by stories of immigration from my family and my personal lived experience as an immigrant. I've investigated the inner workings of devices and characteristic traits of Carnatic music. And I hope I've found ways to integrate methods, practices, and devices from each tradition and exploring the boundary line. I've composed 4 pieces for you for your pleasure, and I would like to start with a little personal background. I was born to Indian immigrants who moved to Oman 35 years ago, and they're still residing there. My father was an electrical engineer, and my mother a math teacher. Now they run a music school, and I have witnessed the transformation of lives because of their sacrifice and perseverance. But originally, we hail from South India, which is the area marked in red here. And that is the origin of the ancient music known as Carnatic music, dating back to 4,000 years. And it is still rigidly performed, but it is usually performed by a small ensemble of musicians that consist of a principal performer, a melodic accompaniment, a rhythmic accompaniment, and a tambura, which acts as a drone throughout the performance. That is the sound that is famous throughout the world of Carnatic music. Here are the 4 principal instruments you might see at a Carnatic concert. Here are 4 more percussion instruments that you might witness, and 4 melodic instruments. It is important to note that Carnatic music is vocal music, and the instruments will play in a gayaki, or a singing style. They're taught to emulate the voice. This is true of percussion instruments also in a manner, because we're taught a rhythmic language known as konako, which is then applied onto the percussion instruments. A little bit about Carnatic music. There are 2 central devices, raga and tala. Akin to a scale, a raga is a sequence of notes in which music is composed or performed. But different from Western music, they can ascend and descend differently. And they involve the use of gamaka, which is embellishment. Each raga has a unique connotation and culturally accepted emotions. And tala is the cycle of rhythm akin to a time signature in Western music. Odd meter talas are much more common in Carnatic music than Western music. Here's a short example of Mishra tala. It's a tala in 7. So it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. As you can see, a tala is clapped on the hands or on the lap while performed, and they can be counted with clap fingers or waves. Here's a short clip about gamakas.
What is a gamaka? A gamaka is basically a connector between two notes. So instead of singing notes in a plain manner like sa ma ga ma ni da ni pa da ni sa, we add some curves and slides and make it sound like sa ma ga ma ni da ni pa da ni sa. Now when we do that
little demonstration of Rag Kamas, I think, exemplifies the use of gamaka. And I'd like to move on to the first song that I'm presenting. This is a song called Invocation. And Invocation is generally performed in the beginning of the concert, and it is a prayer to the gods to make sure that your event goes successfully without hitches or obstacles. And so the song is a hopeful prayer, a desperate will to escape poverty. In this song, I've employed Natai Raga, and that goes like this. But it's important to note that with gamaka, it would sound like sa ri ga ma pa da ni sa ni pa ma ga sa. And it often contains the seventh degree in its ascent, but it contains major and minor tetrachords. And this major-minor shift makes it a very ambivalent mood. I use this to portray doubt, but Nade Raga is suited for the commencement of a concert. And different schools exclude or include the flat seven, depending on the heritage. I use an expansion of drone, whereas I use the drone to create more harmonies. I use the simple tonal melody. And using different tonalities that fit with the B-flat drone, sliding between major and minor, I keep the melody in the bass drum while moving inner voices, and that introduces a lot of tension. So here's Invocation. It is a dedication to my parents who moved as an immigrant with very little money. But I like to imagine what it was like for them to get on that plane and start a new life in another country. The next piece I'd like to present is Jasmine Flower. And this is a piece about my memories of home, of springtime, and comparing and appreciating new environments for immigrants. This is the Kalyani Raga. The equivalent of the Lydian mode, but with Gamaka it sounded like Sa ri ga ma pa da ni sa ni ra pa ma ga re sa. And often it starts from the 7th degree and skips the root to provide a feeling of suspense. And this is an ever-pleasant raga, but brightest in the evening time. And Kalyani translates as auspicious. In this piece, I've employed a korwe, which is a short rhythmic composition. It usually concludes with the percussion solo, the taniyavartana. I'm going to perform this korwe to this pulse here, so you can listen to it. Tak di takadina tam, di takadina tam, takadina tam. Ta tom, get the cataricator tom, ta tom, get the cataricator tom, ta tom, get the cataricator tom. And I've used this to create a melodic texture along with it as performed with the konako. As you can see, it has 2 sections, a purvangam and an uttarangam. This is vital to the construction of korwes. But this is a 7-beat song, so a total of 56 beats creates 8 cycles. Attention to the Gulf problem. A significant amount of immigrants in the Middle East are low-skilled immigrants. Migrant domestic workers receive little protection from the government. Employment remains highly unregulated in the countries of the Middle East, so much so that they have very little human rights. They toil away for long periods of time for very little pay. In 2000, the percentage of foreign workers in the labor force was 80% in the UAE, 64% in Bahrain, and 82% in Kuwait. This next song is composed to address this issue, and it's called Brother's Keeper. When you're an immigrant, there's a struggle to find legality, and fighting this despair can be a very difficult path. Here I've used the Shubha Panturali Raga. romanticism and polytonality. And it is described as sorrowful, but in some contexts it can also be used to convey joy. Grahabedam is the process of shifting the tonic note to another note in the ragam. So if Shubhapantuvarali is shifting the note to the second degree will give you but from the third degree it contains a major pentatonic scale, Mohanam. I've employed counterpoint. The melody in the treble clef is a very simple tonal melody, and the bass clef follows a kinetic melody and takes liberties in accordance with jazz harmony. Together they exist in harmony with each other without compromising each other's integrity. He's a brother's keeper. Finally, my last fact for today is temple beyond sanctuary. It's about finding your place of peace, your satisfaction, breaking from the cycle of survival. Pitch percussion present a unique issue with polytonal jazz harmony or modulating jazz harmony, being that the tabla or the mridangam resonates in a certain tone. But I created a piece that can rotate around the melodic pivot point of the note A, so that the tone center is A major, and the B section keeps this same center. So on and so forth. Temple beyond sanctuary has a dual meaning temple away from sanctuary, temple away from home, but also temple much better than sanctuary. And that to me is community. And what better community than this one? In conclusion, I'd just like to remind everyone that immigrants have a difficult time, but in the end, we all sacrifice. Immigrants suffer. Immigrants are silent. Immigrants tolerate. Immigrants endure. But immigrants persevere. My thanks to all my teachers and advisors for their guidance and support. My thanks to BGGI, Berklee Global Jazz Institute, everyone involved with it, for the performers. My thanks to you. My thanks to the great Jerry Leek for being my panelist, and Bruno Raberg for being my advisor. Finally, I'd like to thank my family and my teachers and community. Thank you very much. I welcome your questions and inquiries.
Now we're all back, and I would like to open the forum for question to Kavi from the panel. Yes, Jerry, go ahead.
Sure. We've worked very closely together in African and Indian traditions and language. The drum languages and the songs have been a huge part of our work in the process. And I'm curious if you could elaborate a little more, Kavi, on how you describe the impact Konakol has had on your music and your process, and how it may have affected your piano playing and opened up your voice to sing and recite as you play the piano. So the connecting of the languages into the melodic, and any new doors that may have opened up as it relates to your playing piano as well.
Sure. I have to say I really was very strongly influenced by your teaching, because even though I've studied Konakol before, being able to apply it in a new manner was a challenge for me, and with your help I was able to explore more. The principal issue being that Konakol is a very structured format. I remember a korwe you taught me, and it consists of like a descending pattern. So if I were to just break it down for everyone,
Cool.
yeah. So here's the pulse. It goes like this. Tetakadimita, 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 takadimita, takadimita, kadimita, 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 tamita, timita, mita, 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 ta, 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 tatigina, 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 ta. And what's happening there is 6 5 4 3 2 1 6 5 4 3 2 1 6 5 4 3 2 1 5 4 3 2 1 5 4 3 2 1 4 3 2 1 4 3 2 1 4 3 2 1. So it's kind of descending as it goes. And in my mind, I can kind of keep that structure, and instead of playing just melodic patterns, for example, I was able to just kind of break the rules a little sidewise. So, just keeping that structure in mind, kind of explore more ways of breaking the boundaries, but still being respectful to each tradition. And putting that in different talas and different cycles has really helped my rhythmic sensibility and creative sensibility, creating structures in my music and improvisation.
Nice. And has that translated into your ability to accompany on piano and sing things you're not playing, for example, like songs or improvisations, even standards? So, opening up the voice and the power of the language as it kind of an additional layer in independence.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree, because one of the greatest things that Konakol does for you, it helps you codify the time and the gaps that you leave. So even as you're displacing figures, you're very well aware of the rhythmic subdivisions and the feel and the time. So at Global, I've learned to use all of my body with my improvisation and performance. But with Konakol, I've learned to connect that with my mouth and my feet. So you would have independence. And I always remember, because we used to do stuff with the bells, and you would always go chink, 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 and that was always the most helpful thing for me. Right. Having to keep a cycle on my hands, having to play with my feet, and that's all come into my playing of lately.
Great. It shows, man. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bruno.
Sure. Congratulations, Kavyesh.
Thank
That was
you.
a really beautiful presentation, and feel blessed that I've been able to be your advisor this spring, and also to have you in the composition course in last fall. I thought it's a really beautiful, heartfelt project, and it's beautiful the way you're connecting the past, present, and future, as you said in the beginning. That really makes a beautiful storyline and connection. I love the way you interpret the ragas on the piano with trills and all the stuff that must be hard to do on an instrument that you can't slide the pitch, but you really make it sound really really beautiful and easy. It doesn't sound forced or anything like that. So that's really beautiful. I like the contrast between the songs that you did, from Jasmine Flower to Brother's Keeper. And Brother's Keeper, I like the way you integrated the Morse code for SOS, takita, 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 into there. That adds a lot to what you want to say with that piece, which is really an anxiety-filled context. So that was really great. And also like the way you vary the orchestration between the pieces, with you playing guitar actually on one of them.
Yeah.
And so each piece had its own color, its own sentiment, but they were all felt like it all flowed beautifully together. My question for you is like, what's next? What are you thinking of doing with the music for one, but also with the project as a whole? If you could elaborate a little bit on that, because I'd love to see this project and the music to be shared as much as possible.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for your comments, and I owe it to you. Without your guidance, I wouldn't be here.
Thank you.
But to answer your question, I think the future for me will mean more because of the impact that I will need to make on the community. One thing I see lacking in the worlds of Carnatic and jazz is there's very little overlap of musicians who learn both traditions. Because of the nature of they're not anywhere proximate, they're not close to each other. So my goal is to create a method to educate Indian musicians in jazz and jazz musicians in Carnatic studies. And what I aim to do with this project is to create kind of intersectionality, to create devices and methods that can be understandable and appreciable to musicians in both worlds. I started off this project kind of thinking about Shakti and John McLaughlin, how he was an American musician who traveled to India to find this amazing art form. And I thought to myself, as someone who has traveled from the countries of Oman and India to these shores, I am now responsible to find my own voice and be able to impart it to others. And so I'd like to set up an education platform where I'm able to put this out. And in order for people to be aware of this intersectionality, I'd like to bring on more platforms, create new projects that showcase these concepts. And in doing so, I'll be able to teach musicians from the US these concepts. And once I'm able to be free from the cycle of immigration that's happening, I would be able to travel to India and create an educational system. And ultimately, I feel like all of this is influential in the unique ability in music that I'd like to create. And so I feel as though, from an educational and performative standpoint, that this will all factor in the next few years.
Thank you. That sounds fantastic. Keep me posted on that, please.
Of course.
And again, congratulations to a beautiful project.
Thank you. Thanks so much, bro.
I would like to recognize the presence of Maestro John Patitucci here. Welcome, John. Do you have any question for Kavi? Comment.
Yes, let me just see. Can you hear me now? Oh, you can hear me.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you've considered, you probably already have, but I think it would be cool to extend the project with poetry from immigrants too, like immigrant poetry, speaking of their experience, and maybe for, because I was learning a lot from your presentation, and I love whenever I hear art and music coming from this culture, I get excited about it. So, but also dance.
Yes. Yeah.
I was thinking about poetry and dance because the music had a lot of, I don't know, when you were singing too, I thought that added a lot to me. I didn't know you played the guitar, man.
I don't. There was many takes of just me trying to put my fingers on the fretboard. But thank you. Hopefully it turned out okay.
I enjoyed it a lot, and the sound was nice too. But yeah, for an extension, I would say that would be interesting. I think you did a beautiful job. I really enjoyed it. And I could tell you really thought about it and you planned, and the way you laid it out was nice, so that if somebody really is unfamiliar with this music, they can feel like they're being brought along to a better understanding.
Thank you. Thanks so much, John. John, can I just respond to that very briefly? Yeah, I just wanted to mention, because of the frame of time that we had due to the coronavirus, I had to shorten my project a little. One of the pieces I actually employ is a piece with poetry. And it's about, walking through Boston underneath skyscrapers and feeling like an alien. And that's a kind of a repetitive piece, and that had poetry to it in Malayalam, which is my native tongue. And I also wanted to highlight my sister, who's in the back there, where she's a, semi-professional dancer for her age. And my project will extend to her work and the work that my parents do in Oman. They have a music school and an art school, and they have dance programs all the time. So there were a few more pieces that I had to cut short due to time, but absolutely, I recognize the importance of intersectionality.
I think it would be powerful.
Yeah, I think so too. Thank you.
Kavi, I'm curious to ask you about the process of actually recording the music, and whether how the transition from being on campus to all the transition line affected or changed in any way. I know you talk about shortening up a little bit, but can you talk a little bit more about the actual production of the music?
Sure, of course. So far the production has involved us learning production techniques, which was a required class for us. And I remember being so enthusiastic about this because, wow, now I can get to add live music to my studio sessions. And then the virus happened, and so we all, went our separate ways. That was an opportunity for me to reimagine my project a little, being that I was counting on the improvisational nature of the music to, create a collaborative spirit. Now it became more of me being able to layer things and more of me being able to be the principal source of the creation and then inviting other people to join me on this. So I think the experience for me has been just kind of centering myself on my ideas and my creativity. Because I find that as a jazz musician, often we can tend to rely on, let's just see what happens, let's go on a gig and let's play standard for 55 minutes. But I love the aspect of me being able to sit down and put all of this into Logic Pro and start layering and seeing the potential of my own instruments. And then I would have my peers send me tracks, like Tyson sent me track, and the inimitable Jerry Leake sent me track, and Giacomo, and all these amazing musicians. And I remember being so flabbergasted by that experience, as someone adding something new and completely transforming the piece.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comment? Chase, you want to say something before I pass it to Danilo? Or
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Chase. The video might be a little stuck, though.
Great. Kavi, it was really wonderful hearing your presentation, and I've caught glimpses of you in the practice room working really hard on the theory and grappling with these connections, and it's amazing to hear the progress and some of the product. It's really astonishing. So thank you very much. I wanted to ask you briefly about something that I thought was very important that you touched upon, about the educational component, about, you know, you sort of have a deep awareness and communal aspect with some different communities. And I'm, you know, you mentioned wanting to bring these communities together and to find methods of connection, of threads together. So I was wondering, I think I feel it, I know you feel that this is an important thing, and I'd wonder if you might just articulate that for a moment, why you think this is so important and what can be learned from this process.
Sure, absolutely. Just to elaborate on the communal aspect of that you mentioned, I'm always interested to be kind of a social butterfly. I want to be part of every community. I want to be friends with everyone. I want to understand about your culture, about your food, and your personalities and your history. That experience, I feel, is central to my longing to create music that is intersectional. And in a way, this feels like my contribution. But also, I wanted to state that I would love to see more of, excuse me, I would love to see more of indie music incorporated in a more experimental, more brave setting, because I feel, though, as now how people approach it can tend to seem a little separate. You know, there's no meeting of worlds sometimes. And I would like to implore musicians from different communities. I would like to, you know, show this music to Faris, who I have, and Nadia, and Giacomo, and Anton, and put John Coltrane into, which, you know, what it should already is, and Tyson, R&B music into this, and dance and Arabic music. And so I would like for these musicians to learn what it's like for me to play this music. And then, you know, and I've always found that the result is something I could never imagine. It's widely different from my own imagination. And I love that. So I want to instigate more of that in every part of the world.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alan, do you want to say something? Anybody else before Danilo?
I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed the music very much. I found it very unique and fresh interpretation. I've heard a lot of fusions and interactions between Carnatic and Hindustani music, also in jazz, but never heard any of the things that sound quite like your music. And I enjoyed the way you used harmony and in it very much. So it was just a pleasure, and I want to congratulate you on the compositions and the clear explanation. I want to learn more about the Braha Bedam modulation idea. I don't know if we have time to give me a lesson in that, but it's extremely new to me and very interesting to learn about that. So another time.
If it's okay with everyone. Yeah, just very quickly. Graya Bedam is the process of just modulating a raga based on the degrees. So if I were to take the simple scale, let's take Shankarabharanam, which is, our major scale. And scales like that have more applications. So from the fourth degree would be Lydian. But once we start getting the more complex scales like Shubha Panturali, that have more chromaticism. Now there's that drone going on in the background. What Carnatic musicians are used to doing is to keep the drone the same and imply a new tonic. So, sa ri ga ma pa da ni sa ri da pa ma sa ri ga pa da sa da pa ga sa ri ga, and that becomes the new tonic, and it adds so much tension, and it is largely unexplored, and audiences are taken for shock when they hear it. And one of the people who use it really well was Shakti, and there's a piece called, I don't remember what is it. I have to remember the name of that. But they modulate to the fourth degree, and that becomes the new sa. So not all of them are exactly classified, and some of them you can't do it because they're not exactly the same raga. But there are subsets. You can create pentatonic ragas. You can create, ragas that ascend differently and descend differently. You have to search for it. That's my only little caveat. You have to search actively for musicians who perform that.
Kavi, congratulations in this wonderful project. And I love the journey. I love the way it develops from where you started. And you made your point, and it's clear. It goes, direct. There is a lot of research. The way you articulated your project was super strong. I'm siding with all the great positive things I heard that are amazing, moved me deeply. So a couple of things I'm just gonna point out in terms of it would be helpful if you put the music, the whole music, as we hear in the track.
Sure.
I really enjoyed the process you took us to showing us the number of scales and tetrachords that you use, and it would be nice to add that part. One of the things I think that I see so much potential, and you have touched upon something really unique, is that I feel the unified front of where we are right now with all the stuff going on in the world, the issues. The only way we can move through these to the other side in this crisis is, and put society at the path of recovery, is by using non-threatening weapons, what I call, which music becomes one, and that's what you're doing, uniting more of the understanding for us to be more understanding of society, and also learn from. There was so many things you laid down that I'm going to encourage the whole Berklee faculty to really take to be a part of this, because it could benefit. It's just so many things you learn, so many ways of thinking also, how you broke it down. I love everything I heard. The only thing I would say, if you're going in this road of expansion and huge, try to touch upon this ambitious idea you have, I would also will include a call for the blues in this. The call of the blues is important, because imagine a combination of traditional form, the rural blues song, with Indian ragas, and create opportunities for improvisation. You might be tapping into something very innovative in how to heal society in deeper ways, because you're doing it already, but you can go a little farther in the American history, rescue some of those values that are there from bebop all the way to the blues, and then create a perspective that might create a new platform you might tapping into something completely innovative here.
Absolutely.
To use music in a powerful way to recover and to go on the way of recovering. So I'm proud of your work. It's been an honor and a pleasure working with you, and that's it. I don't have anything. You're ready to fight the world. Fight the world with music, man. You know, bring all those beautiful. One quick question: what are the challenges that you see in putting Indian music with jazz? What would you advise to the jazz musicians if we want to grow into these new ideas that you're posting here?
Right. I think there's been a great amount of willingness and exploration from the jazz community to explore Indian music. I would add that jazz is relatively unknown on Indian shores. There hasn't been much awareness of it, but there is a rich history of musicians employing its works. But the general public is unaware of it. Someone as famous as John McLaughlin is unknown to the Indian audiences. So the challenge is entering the audience, entering the awareness of the general audience and the consumption of music. The second thing is, I think Carnatic music has tended to be tied to a very conservative point of view, rightly so, because it is an ancient art form and deserves to be preserved. But in doing so, it has experienced some kind of people who are against its modification. So I imagine a project like mine can have some criticism because of the nature of me exiting the world of Carnatic music. That it can be a struggle, but like you said, music is the most powerful weapon, and an emotional piece can change their mind. So if it is heartfelt and the work is done properly, I feel like all of that can be bridged. And then lastly, I just wanted to add, I would love to see more Indian students in the US. I would love to see more Indian Carnatic musicians studying jazz, studying Western classical music and harmony, and be able to come to the shores of the US to attend a school like Berklee and get the same opportunities that I did. Because I found that the path I took to get here was not straight. It was curved and it was twisted. And I would never want any other kid, any other student to have difficulty in financially or resourcefully achieve these methods. So long-term goal is just like, if I can have a little scholarship, in my family's name for Indian students to come here. But that might be ambitious, but who knows?
That's a beautiful idea.
Yeah, Kavi.
Yes.
Very much.
So congratulations, Kavi. It's been an amazing pleasure to have you this year with us, and congratulations again for this beautiful project. I would like to thank your advisor Bruno and Jerry for being in the panel with us, and all of the faculty. Special acknowledgement also to Mary McLaury and Jennifer Caraluzzi. Thank you so much for helping us with everything and all the work you've done. And thank John for being with us today. And I want to remind you all that we'll be back at 2 o'clock for the C presentation of Carlos Capaccio. You're all invited to come back if you can. Congratulations, Kavi, and have a beautiful summer. And I'll see you later.
Before we go, we have to do it at the BGJI style. Thank you to the parents for being present, but also we want to say happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you, right there. It's sitting right in there in front of the happy birthday, Alan Chase. Some harmony. Happy birthday to you. And Kavi, you fill up the last thing with your all those tetrachords.
Yeah.
Alan, happy birthday, man. We have many more birthday, and what a way to spend the happy birthday here in this amazing impacting project. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Kavi, congratulations on a great
Thank you,
presentation.
Alan.
I
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it
Happy
very much.
birthday. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all.